Here's one way not to start your novel. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, editor and multi-award-winning author.
And you've got 2 editors for 5 minutes. So today we're going to talk about one of the ways not to start a novel, and that is with backstory overload. Peg, what is backstory overload?
Backstory overload is when the writer seems to think that the reader needs to know every little detail leading up to the beginning of the story. And you know what? They don't. No, but you know who needs to know it?
The author.
The author needs to know it. The author needs to know all those details.
Now, I'm a big fan of James Scott Bell's philosophy on this, which is in your first 10 pages, you get 1 sentence of backstory. And in the first 50 pages, you can add another couple of paragraphs, but you don't want to add any more backstory until your reader is in love with your characters, until they've bought into the book, until they want to know more, and then you can tell them all about their crazy past or the mistakes that they've made. But when you start your book that way, you're going to confuse readers. So what is backstory overload? How does that generally impact a reader?
It's boring because it's too much information all at once. Much better to hint about what's coming. Much better to hint about that there is a backstory without spoon feeding it to that poor reader until they're just too full to take any more in. So better to hint about, oh, she's got a backstory, and well, we'll deal with that later. And just string them along, just like you're fishing, and you got to tug that line a little bit. You want to always hook the reader and keep the line tight and keep them interested and keep reeling it in. When you throw everything out there all at once for them, it just isn't interesting.
So think of it this way. We've all been to a party or family gathering where you've got that one person who sits down next to you and you dread listening to the story that they're going to tell because
over
you know
and over again.
It's going to take them 25 minutes to get to the point of, I got a flat tire when I was in the drive-thru. Yeah. And you're like, really? Did I need 25 minutes of build-up to get to that? Instead, you want to do the same thing in writing that you hope your guests will do, which is, I got a flat tire in the drive-thru. Then I found out I had driven over a nail 5 miles ago, and it was a good, I was lucky to even make it there. So you want to start with that action, with something that's interesting and engaging, and then fill in the details later. And you only want to fill in the details that are important.
There will be tons of details that you as an author know that your reader will never know because they don't need to know it. Remember that those details can only come out in your point of view characters' inner thoughts or dialogue. And people don't just go dump their backstory on people.
And if they do, it's probably, again, that dinner guest that sits down and says, oh my gosh, you won't believe it. When I was in kindergarten, and you're just not ready for that level of commitment to a relationship yet. You want to get to know the person first.
Yeah. So there's some reason to be interested in the backstory.
Yes. So general rule of thumb, again, I like to say general rules because there are no hard and fast, you can never do this. There's always going to be an exception. But a general rule is going to be that you need to know your character's life, but you're only going to put, what would you say, maybe 10, 15% of that into the story.
True. Yeah.
Because it's all set up. And that all happened before. We're not as interested in what happened before. The readers want to know what's happening now and what's going to happen next.
Yes. Always moving the story forward, not moving it backwards. Because who wants to go backwards with a book?
I don't know. Some people say high school was the best days of your life. I don't want to go back and relive them. And your readers...
Not my high school years. No, not the best years of my life at all.
Your reader doesn't want to relive your character's high school days either.
Right.
So start in the moment, stay in the moment until you're moving the book forward. And then just drop in those clues, drop in the necessary details of backstory if and when it's needed.
Think of your backstory as the pepper that's going to season your story. What's going to happen if you dump that whole pepper jar into your soup? Nobody's going to eat it. And if you dump all your backstory into the beginning of your novel, nobody's going to read it. That's pretty plain. Blunt.
Blunt.
That was blunt, but it's true.
And it's a great way, I think, to end, because we're just at about our 5-minute mark.
We are.
We're actually over by 3 seconds. So
we gotta go.
That's it.
Cut.